You want to draw in 3D even though you're drawing on a 2D surface because it helps you so much down the line. It helps you build from imagination. It helps you create your own and manipulate your own forms. And then it also helps you understand things better. And then later down the line, when you want to finally like start to render and things like that, it's easier to render when you see 3D form of it all. You want to be able to look at pictures and references and see all of these 3D forms. Very rudimentary, we have a circle, right? This is 2D circle on a flat surface. However, in order to see the 3D forms, you want to be practicing drawing your contour lines. We know the surface of a ball is round. We have this curve going around like this. Then you'll see that there is this curved surface, and now automatically it's starting to look like a 3D object instead of a 2D object. Now, the thing about contour lines is that you want to imagine the hidden side behind everything. So I'm kind of putting in the dotted line here to show that this equator or this circumference, this contour line is going around the entire object. It's the same thing with, let's say, like a box. You want to imagine the hidden edges or the hidden sides that are behind it. And so that's why it's helpful, especially when you're starting out, to draw out the stuff that you don't see. And the way you practice this is by using like a grid. And then you can put out your lines. And then you have all of the vertical lines. Right now, this is a good looking box, but I don't have the hidden lines. And I think that when you're starting out, you want to do the extra step and draw out the lines that you don't see. So if I were to erase, and then you can have your hidden lines going back like this. You want to do some of these. Get comfortable with this so that way until you can intuitively see it in your mind's eye. And then eventually you will be able to start to stack things. So if you look at over here, this arm is very foreshortened, but all it is just, you can start with like the ball, and then you have your cylinder, and you're just putting a cylinder in front of a ball, and you're drawing over, right? So now here, this section here, is going to be a little bit not seen, and then you can kind of put in your dash lines, and then you have a second cylinder right here, and then you can draw out the lines. Second cylinder, this edge does not get seen, and you have your contour lines like this. So always be imagining what's on the other side, even draw out what's on the other side until you get kind of better. You know, you're drawing through all of these lines. How do you kind of not make it look messy? And how do you not make it look kind of confusing? I think it's just knowledge of line weight and line clarity and also line economy. Same thing, these are line basics. You want to have smooth lines that are confident using your whole arm. If you need to rotate the canvas to get it, you can do that. The other part is that you can go really lightly, get practice going super light with the strokes, and also practice not doing these like hairy, ugly lines. And then it's just confidence in drawing the shapes. So if I were to redraw like this pelvis area, I would maybe start off a little bit simple with the construction like that, being loose, and then slowly start to bring in the other objects. And now right here is looking a little messy. Lightly erase out and then go over with what your main lines are. And then always remember the contours to help you out. You can lightly erase just to help clean it up a little bit. And then you have the legs. And this is all from, being able to do this will help you draw more from imagination because it's just moving the shapes. If you've drawn a cylinder in every possible angle, then there isn't really anything that you can't draw because it's just, moving the cylinders into the right shape, into the right orientation. And then it's just understanding the topography of everything. And then you want to also consider the difference between the outline and the contour lines. So I've been saying contour lines. What are contour lines? Contour lines showcase the form or help. You want to imagine 3D wire mesh. If you haven't seen like 3D models and 3D softwares, you want to basically imagine these wires that are coating the body. And what this will do is to one, really solidify the 3D nature of the form. So you'll see here, even the hair. The hair could be, this is the outline of the hair, if I were to draw it. The outline captures the shape. Very, very 2D. Even, you know, this isn't 2D because I have this overlap. So let's say I don't have an overlap. This shape right here is very, very 2D. However, once you start adding in contour lines, it gives it its shape or its intended shape, right? So now we kind of are seeing it in the perspective. This contour line could very well be something like this. And then now the form starts to shift. And then now you can start to imagine it differently. And now that has this small little ledge right here because of this contour line change. I changed the contour line from going out to going in, and it kind of creates a different look. I also changed the edges a little bit, but that's besides the point. Adding in these contour lines to help guide and solidify the 3D form of everything. Same thing with the face right here. If I were to add contour lines for the face, you'll go flat of the forehead, in, out of the eye, down for the eyelid, and it kind of drops down here, down. Here, there's a contour line going out like this. Here, there's a contour line wrapping around the zygomatic and the cheek, like that, like that. It helps create more of a blueprint on what everything is supposed to look like if it was 3D. Doing this a lot will help you no longer start to see things in 2D and try to see things in 3D. And then it's just practice, you know, like trying to make them look like they're wrapping around the form, giving it enough thickness. You definitely want to start off with stuff like this. If you can get good with doing contour lines and like wrapping them around here and making it look like they're 3D. How do you deconstruct a complex shape into 3D primitives? How do you turn like a human figure into this kind of thingy? Everything can be made up of spheres, boxes, and cylinders. These are your 3 primitives. And your next step after you can get comfortable drawing these is to be able to manipulate them by like bending them, you know, twisting them like this, being able to just, you know, manipulate your forms in however you feel like it, because once you're able to do all of this, then you can basically just draw all of this. Let's look at an example. We have something like this. What are the 3D forms when we see this? How can we simplify this into a very easy to understand idea? Well, first things first, this is such an easy kind of cylindrical shape. And it's good to do tracings too. So you have something like this. You also have this shape right here, and you already see a little bit of contour lines like this. All right, so you're able to immediately start to see the simple shapes, and then it's just starting off with the simple shape and adding in the details on top of it. Over here, it's also the same thing. If you've done enough practice, you'll be able to have a blueprint in your mind of a mannequin, of how you normally like to build mannequins. And it's just mileage, it's just repetition. Chest can be simplified as either a square or a cylindrical egg shape. And you might have different preferences, especially depending on the pose. I have different preferences. And for this pose, I like using a cube because it showcases the perspective more and the angles. And then the arms are cylinders, so you can easily set all of this up like that. And it's just sort of seeing all of this in a very simplified way. You can't get better without practice. You gotta just bite the bullet and practice. And then if we have something like this, we can simplify it even further by just going a box, second box, tube, legs. So you might be at this kind of level right here. And then once you get better at this, then you'll start to do this. And what are the prerequisites to be able to get to this level? Like if you want to, you know, start from the very, very beginning, boxes, 1,000,000 boxes. Give me a pack of 20 boxes every single day from the perspective, from 2-point perspective. all on the same grid. Give me a bunch more cylinders and then a bunch more just freehand boxes. It'll help you be able to see a 2D surface as if it's 3D. So I mentioned that I like using boxes for a rib cage sometimes because of the rigidity, because of the perspective, and because of corners. I decided to put a corner here because this also serves as the corner of the anatomy, right? So I guess the idea is, where do you want to put corners? Why corners? Corners come from two different things. So if you want to start drawing like organic things, you want to simplify such an organic shape into, like what I said before, simple shapes, cylinders, boxes. And then you also want to keep in track anatomy. Typically, bones, areas that are bones, have more corners. Like, so we'll do boxes for bones and corners. Muscles can have more rounder shapes. So if we look something like an arm, we have the deltoid muscle going down like this. All of this is very, very round. But I do have corners in here. And I think that the idea of corners is that you don't want things to be super smooth and wiggly. You want to have structure to it. So I would do like smaller strokes and kind of decrease the polygons. This sphere has a million, tiny straight lines that's creating the round look, right? All these like little tiny straight lines. What you want to try to do is to simplify it by taking out all of these curves and all of these little straight lines and only, having a few straight lines to illustrate the curve, right? This one has a million straight lines. This one has a few straight lines that you can count. That's the same idea for the arm. So for anything, if you want to start drawing like organic shapes, like this, you want to start to create corners and things wherever you see kind of like the edge is shifting. So here, I have a corner here. I also have a corner right here. And why did I put this corner right here? It's because this is where the plane is changing. This plane right here, the way I see it is that this whole thing is facing this way, while this plane right here is facing this way. And then you have a plane here that's facing this way, all of that, right? Now, this is what I'm thinking, but this isn't what is being drawn. Because you can see what I've actually drawn is just I have a little corner here, but I still just have a round contour line. So this is just sort of implying the fact that there's a plane change. And then if we move on to down here, we have the bicep muscle. Here, you can go round like this, but that's also not fully accurate because then if you want to shade it, there's two different plane changes here, right? This is round, but if light was to hit here, this area here would be in shadow, right? And if light were to hit on this side, this whole area here would be in shadow. So what you would want to do is with your contour lines or with your mind is to think about it like there's a really soft edge right here. Because this side here is a plane that's facing this way, and then here is a plane that's facing this way. Even though it's just like a round shape. So if light were to come from this direction, I already have it all figured out in my head. If light's coming down from here, this plane is not facing the light, so it's going to be in shadow. This plane is not facing the light, so it's going to be in shadow. All of this is going to be in light, but here, this is where kind of like the edge is turning away. You can see it kind of like bending away. So this plane right here would be in shadow. All of this is building on top of each other, right? You have your primitives, you know your perspective, and then you start to simplify complex things into simple shapes. You want to lower the polygons so that way you can clearly see the edges and the corners. You can clearly kind of tell what is being on top, what is being below. This hair strand. Hair is, we imagine, very round, very complex. Simplify the hair strand into just a flatter shape so that way you can easily build it out. All of this leads into drawing from imagination. So this is kind of like the step-by-step, right? We're going from here. You want to start off by doing something simple like this. And then you can slowly start to graduate and create more complex and start stacking the shapes onto each other. And then after all of that, you want to slowly start to lower the polygons so that way you can start to design and style more. Why is like learning to draw in 3D good? Learning to see 2D things in 3D why is that good? It gives you more freedom to draw. It lets you learn how to draw things that you've never drawn before. It lets you simplify, and then it also lets you make things up from imagination. And then it also helps you design. There's a bunch of reasons why, other than just improving your drawing in general. And I think the other reason is you're able to now, because you're able to simplify and you're able to like, oh, like I can see this, and you're able to fully like learn it, you can now rotate things and you're not tied to reference. You no longer have to draw exactly what you see. You can draw from imagination. And I think a way to test that is to have a pose and try to rotate that pose and draw it from a different angle. So we have this super simple idea right here. This is so much more easier to rotate than, even something that's even more complex than this. Because if you want to easily rotate it, it's just moving the shapes in a different way. So you'll be able to rotate the body like this. Since, this part here is sticking out, you'll stick it out this way, be able to twist it around like that. You see more of the pelvis. And then this arm here would be more towards us because it was facing away from us before in the front view. So now in the side view, it'll be more in the back. And then this arm here, we won't really see because it's, behind the body. It'll be out like this. So it's just being able to simplify and break things down. So that's the idea. You want to start off with your simple primitives, and then you want to go into more complex form. And then you want to add in, a little bit of design and shape language. And then that'll help you draw better from imagination and to help manipulate and create different interesting shapes.